Hey folks, my name is Hussain Mehmood. I run a data analytics consultancy called Marketlytics. We help clients figure out how to use data and Google Analytics and Tag Manager to implement stuff. And we've been doing that for about 8 years now. And like the topic that I wanted to talk about today is how do you effectively leverage things like Tag Manager without being technical and without like having to constantly rely on your developers. And this is a topic that's come up quite often because the promise of Tag Manager is that you could use it without developers. So today I'm just going to talk about briefly like what Tag Manager is and how you could effectively plan to use it for your benefit. So Tag Manager is effectively a container for your tags. It helps you manage your tags in a way that you can implement the tracking once and then reuse it across different things. It is really useful if you have like multiple vendors that are all kind of consuming the same data. We'll talk a bit more about that. The reason it is very useful is if you have like multiple vendors, or if you're trying to test like different types of platforms, or if you're expecting to like have a lot of like new marketing vendors come up. This makes it very easy to like implement all of those things and not have to like constantly bug your developers. And the reason it kind of works so well is that the fundamentally the data that you have on your website, especially for an e-commerce store, is fairly similar across the board. So like all the different marketing vendors require the same data but with a different name. So you have things like prices, the name of the products and so forth, and Facebook criteria and all would kind of use the same thing by just calling it with a different name. And the reason you know we try to kind of look at it this way is we build for our projects we build a data map, and that data map basically allows us to see like what is the information that becomes available, and how should we kind of organize it for different types of vendors. So really with the data map, what you're actually looking at is how does, as person goes down into the funnel, the amount of information available about them or about the things that they're looking at increases, and you start to like organize that, and then you have a very clear picture of what information could you use for different types of marketing initiatives at what point in the funnel. And this of course is a bit of work because you have to like first kind of plan and figure out what information is available, and then how do you want to use it across the board. But the benefit is that this cost is front loaded because you're planning for it and you have like a time that you've kind of outlined to accomplish this. So it makes it easy to like start and plan and really take your time to implement what you really want to do. And you have like key considerations around what analytics platforms are you going to use, what are different marketing platforms that you're going to be using, and what are like some initiatives 6-12 months down the line that you have to plan for, and then build out this structure. And once you've kind of planned that stuff, the next step is to actually loop in your developers and give them some information around what needs to happen. And we try to simplify this so we get like all the information that we need in one place, what needs to be removed, what needs to be added, and like the status of things as we QA stuff, examples code. So it makes it the developers' jobs easy, and they generally kind of love this. And once that gets done, we QA it and we verify it, and then we get into configuring the stuff that is needed. But at the same time, we are also starting to kind of document what needs to happen. So someone new that's coming in is able to then kind of use that information and has like a clear picture of what was the original work that went in, so they are able to reuse it instead of having to start from scratch. So documentation, I think, is one of the kind of key things that we do, organizing everything, why we're doing it and so forth. And then we try to educate the users on how GTM works. So of course you are able to do some of this without having no knowledge of GTM, but like some knowledge definitely helps of the tool. So we expect like what is a variable and what the value is. For example, anything that we store in Tag Manager has a name, and that stores a value. And then we talk about triggers, which is another fundamental building block about which helps us use that variable or the data that we collected and trigger some action based on that. So if like some condition is true, for example, the page visited is cart, then trigger this action, or send this data into AdWords or so forth. So that makes it simple to reuse stuff. And third step, of course, bringing it all together with tags is you're able to effectively you know trigger something, then send that data into one of the different marketing platforms like Facebook Analytics, or even use like the same trigger to send data into multiple places. So with purchase, you send like everything on the financial page. And this approach is like very flexible, right? Because once you have this like variable based on like the data map that you built, and then triggers and tags, you're effectively just mixing and matching the things that you need to send data into different things. So you could have a lot of new tags added automatically without having to do a lot of effort around it. And like the key thing that you might have noticed throughout this is that you want to be able to reuse things. So the reason we have this data map is that you get data in once. You want to reduce the size of tags that you add, and the size of the amount of queries that you do to your backend to get data, to improve speed, and you are able to recycle stuff. And then of course occasionally you may need to loop in the developers, but you should understand when is a developer needed. Generally the developer is needed if the information is completely new, if it's like a transformation. So if you're converting dollars to cents or something else, that sort of thing tag manager could do fairly easily, so you don't need to loop in the developers. And if this all kind of goes according to plan, then it makes it very, very easy to launch new things and increase your velocity with marketing experiments. So in this particular case, this was a client of ours that we worked with about 3 years ago, and they were able to like deploy tags in 2 days versus 16 days, and had like no updates in the last year, even though we were testing like 4 or 5 platforms with them. So yeah, overall I think this is I think everything we wanted to touch on. And if you have any questions, please let me know. But I think overall, if you are able to plan the process and then kind of structure it in a way, it could be a very useful windfall. Thank you.